might be, I don't know, they might be the same age, he might be a little older. I'm guessing they've been with the company 25 plus years. You're going to be surprised. Like you're expecting someone that sounds like they just got out of Harvard Business School. She's going to come on and it's going to be, hi, this is Linda McKissick from Denton, Texas. Okay? And they're salt of the earth. They're really key people in this company. They're always willing to teach and learn and help people learn. But I tell you, one of my biggest memories or that affected me the most. Here are these people. They do. I'm gonna guess their team in Denton. I'm gonna guess they make $3 to $5 million a year in commission. She owns market centers. They have regions. Obviously, they have a ton of property. That's what we're talking to her about today. But at Mega Agent Camp, this was maybe 7-8 years ago, and Mega's 2.5 days, and so the second day or the third day is only from 8 to 12, and people have kind of worn out and lost interest, so it just begins to thin and thin and thin, before noon, and I'm semi-impressed with myself that, it's 11 and I'm still there. And it's a massive hall that holds 20,000 people. And so I'm like, okay, it's 11, I'm gonna go. And I get up and I cross the main road, 7 rows back, is Jimmy McKissick. Here this guy, all this success, and man, he is the last guy there taking notes, and I'm just like, but there you go. There's one reason why these people are what they are. They never quit learning.
If you listen to her full story, which you may not share today, but she was a cash register in a grocery store right before she got into real estate.
Yeah, no, she's some very modest means. So,
sounds like she's on there.
Linda.
Hello.
Good morning. Hi, Jim.
Good morning, Linda. How are you? Everything's fantastic.
Who is that? Hey, Linda. Linda.
Thank you, great and great.
Can they hear us?
Yes, they can hear you.
Linda, can you hear me? This is Brad.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and we can see you.
Okay, perfect. Can you hear Jim?
Yes. We can also.
Jimmy, how are you?
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. I was just telling your story, and I don't even know if you know this story, but everyone's very aware of y'all's success in multiple areas of wealth building and in real estate. And I was telling the story, it was probably 8 years ago at Mega Agent Camp, and it was the last day, that day that ends at 12. And, usually people start leaving at 9, 10, 11. Like at 12, there's very few people left. And you were across the big aisle from me, like 7 rows back. And I was like, well, I've made it to 11. I'm going to head out. And I got up to leave, and I turned, and there you were, still taking notes at your level. And it was like a knife in the heart. I sat right back down and kept going.
That's a funny story.
So there's no doubt. I've explained that y'all are very learning based. So let's begin. Again, this is a group. I've told about you guys, and if you allow me to just kind of go a hybrid, because there's a lot of things you can talk about, but the explanation I've given to these people is that your team makes $3 million plus a year. You've been with the company 25 years?
26. Yeah.
26 years. You own regions, you own market centers, but that's not really what we want to talk about today. I know Linda has a huge series on streams of income, and Gary believes in 7 streams of income, and all great, and that's huge stuff for people, but we're going to really focus on one today, which is really kind of your real estate holdings and the income from that and how you did it. So this group here, every month we have what's called investment club in this office. So we don't want people just to be real estate agents. We want them to have a real estate business. And we also don't want them 70 years old with a cane on the street selling real estate. So the purpose of this is we need to establish passive income that equals or exceeds our ultimate standard of living. And you guys have done this in a big way. So that's what we're talking about today, really, is just how you do that in real estate. So I'll just let either of you start. Like, how did all this begin where you started buying anything, residential, commercial? Of all the people I know on the planet, y'all are the first people I know that after the downturn happened that I knew you were buying real estate. Where people were still scared of things going lower. I can't remember what I was at, but I knew you were a net buyer in a big way. So why don't y'all start talking there? Like, what got...
Why don't you start with our story, Linda?
Okay, well, the main reason we did it is because, two things. One, we had such a horrible experience when we lost everything in the late 80s from a business that we were in. Had to sell it because the economy was going down. We had to sell it for $600,000 less than what we owed against it. I always like to say, sometimes your greatest challenge will become your greatest blessing if you give it long enough and you learn from it. And so I think the main reason we were willing to pay attention and understand that we needed to figure out how to build wealth, and real estate was just the first natural step to do it, was because of the pain of going broke. I mean, that was extremely painful years. It was hard on our marriage. It was hard on our family. And I think because of that, it made us more sensitive and aware that cash flow is not the main game that you have to worry about. It's really about, passive income and, like you said, having enough that you can sustain your lifestyle so that you're working because you want to, not because you have to, and you're ready for life's unexpected, like an economic downturn, or somebody in your family getting sick, or an elderly parent that can't pay for themselves. So I think we were more sensitive to that because of that experience. And so we didn't want to ever experience that again, so we started looking for the answers. And when we realized that there was only 3 ways to build wealth: businesses, stocks, or real estate. Stocks weren't an option we were interested in. We just got burnt from a business that we owned, so real estate sounded like the most liable, the most likely first step for us to take. And so I think that's what made us more aware. Wouldn't you say, Jim?
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking about back in those times and everything and where we were mentally and stuff. And, anything that you do with investing and stuff, everything starts in your mind. So you've got to figure out, number one is, what is your strategy for you? For Linda and I, back in that time frame, we had started building a real estate practice that was starting to throw off some decent cash flows. We were using a lot of it to pay banks back and stuff like that, but we felt pretty confident that we had a really good business in real estate. And so we really got laser focused in our real estate career. We knew that business was going to be the cash flow business that could catapult us into investing. So we needed to get pretty good at that. So for us, immediate cash flow was not our long-term strategy on investing. Investing for us was having money. At the time that we started our journey, I was 40 years old, and we had zero money in the bank, zero money in savings, and the only real estate we owned was the house we lived in, and we bought it through an owner finance deal, and we still had pretty good sized debt on it. So going broke and stuff, and in the front end with our mind, we started investing in our brain, and we started reading all the books about what wealthy people did that we didn't do. So we were reading, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Millionaire Next Door, Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, The Wealthy Barber. And so before we even started investing, we were pouring all this stuff into our brain. And so we had to figure out what was our strategy. And for us, our goal at the time, this was pre-Keller Williams days, guys. This is where our brain was in 1990, is we wanted to have, by the time I was 60 years old, we wanted to have $250,000 a year coming to us passively through our real estate investments. So we didn't really worry about ROI. We didn't really worry about a cash-on-cash return. Only thing we knew is they had the cash flow and pay for themselves, and we needed to finance them at a price that we could get enough rent to where we could finance them on a 15-year note. Again, I was 40 years old. By the time that I was 60 years old, we wanted to have $250,000 coming to us. And in our market, what it looked like at that time in the early 90s, we needed to own 50 properties. We owned 20 properties. They needed to be paid for over the 15 to 20 year period between the time I was 40 and 60. And those were going to generate a cash flow to us once they were all paid for of $250,000 a year. And Lynn and I were going to continue selling real estate and have our $250,000 a year coming in and live happily ever after. Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay, so obviously it's gone way bigger than that.
Yours will too. Once you get on the wealth building journey and you really learn and you start understanding this stuff, but the main thing, it wouldn't be $4 million today if we didn't start with $250,000 back in 1990.
Right.
That's what you guys got to get in your head right now is figure out what is your strategy, because my strategy may not be your strategy. If I'm sitting there and I'm 25 years old and I'm looking at investing in real estate over time, my strategy maybe is to make more cash flow off the property, to go in there and finance them for 30 years, try to make a cash flow of $300 to $600 a month per property, and I want to go get 10 properties and have an extra, $5,000 to $6,000 a month coming in income. So the strategy is a big deal on this front end.
Yeah, and Jim, I want to add, when we bought our first 3 houses, we were still climbing out of that $600,000. A lot of people are trying to wait till they get ready or everything gets perfect, and you need to figure out a way to go no matter what. Unless you got massive credit card debts, and you got to get all that stuff off. But we bought our first 3 properties with a partner because we couldn't go to the bank and get it on our own, but we didn't let that stop us. We made the plan, found the houses, and just got started, even though we couldn't do it by ourselves in the beginning because of our, situation that we were climbing out of.
Let us talk about our first investment.
Well, our first investment, we did a flip. I found it and I went home and I told Jimmy all excited about it, like I found our first investment property.
Well, let's get a right?
And we're gonna make $15,000 on it. They don't wanna, sell to anybody but an investor because it's got some pretty good foundation damage and different stuff like that. And so Jimmy said, well, that's great, but Linda, we can't finance it. We don't have the cash. We can't do, how are we gonna do this? And so I thought about it for a little bit and I said, you know what, my builder Lou, he will do it with me. And sure enough, he did the first 3 properties. We sold that one, made exactly 15. That day, a Resolution Trust Corporation foreclosure came on the market for $15,000, and so we talked him into not taking the money, but just putting it into another house, and we were well on our way. And then when we started doing them on our own, we had our title company take 15% of every commission check away from us because we had, like Jimmy likes to say, the DMD, disappearing money disease. And so if we touched our little hands, it went poof. And so, you have to be willing to say, I'm in this. I'm going to do what this plan tells me I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out a way to get it done.
Excellent. So we're on like an 8 or 9 year second longest run in U.S. history here of upcycle, which is nice if you've owned properties for this time. But I'm guessing I know the answer. Are y'all currently a net buyer?
Yes, we bought 12 houses in the last probably 18 months. Now, most of those houses have turned into flip houses, and we've made some money on some, and we've lost some money on some, but their numbers didn't work quite enough to do rentals. And you got to remember, looking at Linda and I right now, I'm 68 years old, and Linda's 9 years younger than that. And so, at our age, we're looking for things that will throw off for cash flow. The one common denominator that building wealth really has is it takes TIME. So, you know, if you're looking at buying property to hold, to try to get them paid for, you know, unless you're gonna pay cash for them right now, which can be very good investments too if you buy them right. You know, we're looking for things with more cash flow and long-term real estate. You know, our strategy's changed over time, but we've accumulated 100 properties.
Okay, so Jimmy, yeah, in a nutshell, what would you say your strategy is? Like, do you have a minimum ROI on a house, or is it a certain type of property?
You know, I don't even like to even talk ROIs on houses and stuff. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna tell you how simple this is, guys. We look at our houses like they're piggy banks. Does that make any sense to anybody in the room?
Yes.
Because here we look at it, we go out and we put 30% down or whatever we put down to buy an investment property. So we're investing our capital into this piggy bank. And every time that this tenant goes and pays us rent and is paying off the debt service on that property, that tenant is making a deposit in our piggy bank every month. We're just trying to fill that piggy bank up with money by the time it's paid for and you have a house. You realize it doesn't take, you don't have to own 100 houses. That sounds crazy to a lot of people think about owning 100 houses. But what if you just own 3? Think about 3 houses that you own free and clear in this market. What kind of financial options that gives you? The things that you could do with that, you could refinance it, drag money out of it tax-free to do with whatever you needed to do. You could fund your kids' education with that if you had it free and clear, if you wanted to refinance it. You could sell it if you wanted to, or you could live off the income of it, or you could move into it if you needed to. So just think it just in terms of just 3 to 5 properties is really more wealth than most people can accumulate in their lifetime.
No, I agree. I mean, most people have 3 to 5 paid for. 90% of the planet would probably retire and could live on that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So let me put it another way. So I'm guessing you have people that call you that know you're a buyer that can buy cash quickly. I mean, you have people all the time probably say, Jimmy, Linda, I have a property, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would be the questions you would ask them to determine, just without seeing it yet, whether you're interested in this property? So I call you up and say, Jimmy, I got a property over in East Denton. What would you ask me?
I'd say number one, I need to look at the location of the neighborhood. Is the neighborhood stable, or is the neighborhood going up, or is the neighborhood going down? I try not to buy in neighborhoods that are trending down. Ask how old the house is. It's a brick, it's a stucco, it's a wood. What are those particular factors about the house? Trying to find out as much information about the house. The age of the house makes a big difference to me buying right now. I like to buy newer versus older because I bought a bajillion older houses, and at the end of the day, those require a lot more maintenance and expense over the years. I asked what it would rent for in the neighborhood, what are the rental comps for the neighborhood, and when you're figuring ROIs and stuff on houses, if you're paying cash for them, it's real simple to do, and you're looking for somewhere in the the 10 to 15% range on a house is a really good rate of return. If you can make 10% on every house that you bought and you kept after expenses and after your net operating costs and everything on that house, where else can you go make 10% on your money in an appreciating asset? The other strategy that we like to use and stuff, we like to buy houses that are nice enough so that when we sell those houses, if we do decide to sell them, we can sell them to a retail buyer, to a customer that we use every day. You really maximize your return on your investment when you do. When you buy investment grade houses, houses that are typically older, houses that are in depreciating neighborhoods, houses that are really, cheap on the marketplace. Who's your logical buyer whenever you turn around to sell those houses?
It's a good point. So will you buy a synthetic stucco house?
So that'd be another investor, right? I mean, so you're gonna have to sell that house at a discount to another investor, typically out in the marketplace when you turn around and if you decide to sell that home. So any home that we sell, that we purchase now has to be sellable in our mind to a retail buyer out in the marketplace.
Okay, so would you buy a wood house? I mean, obviously brick has the least maintenance. Would you buy a wood house?
Sure, if it's in the right area.
Okay.
And if it was in a depreciating neighborhood and there was crap all around it, no. But I've got one area in Denton that's close to the University of North Texas that we own about, I don't know how many houses, maybe 4 or 5.
At least.
In that particular neighborhood, that are all older wooden homes, but they really bring a high dollar if you try to sell those homes. And they're in an area that at some point, and then they're on huge lots, and there'll be a tear down area to where you'll maximize the money out of them, you'll tear them down, and you can build new structures on those things and sell out of them and make a bunch of money.
Do you rent the students?
Yeah.
You don't.
We do.
Okay. Do you allow dogs?
Yes, with a deposit on some homes. Some homes, no.
Okay, I'm just jumping all over, kind of stream of consciousness. So
Okay.
y'all have done this a long time. What's the biggest mistakes you've made that you could tell us that we could avoid?
I really don't know whether it was a mistake or not, but we bought a lot of those investment grade homes in the early years, but I think the reason we did is because all we could afford. So I'm not sure it was really a mistake buying those. We ended up selling them and repositioning our portfolio, midterm. But, those homes that really look good on paper and stuff, after we owned them for a few years, by the time you figure the maintenance costs and the repairs and everything on those homes, they didn't cash flow nearly as much as what we thought they were gonna be on the front end.
But the sad thing is, those really appreciated more than anything. Those are some of the ones that we're tripling our money on because the area is so high demand of wood floors and all that stuff. So, I don't regret doing any of those. I would say the only biggest mistake would be not starting this sooner and not realizing that you are in the real estate business. And why not you to purchase these homes? Just being too afraid at times, or just listening to any limiting beliefs about this would be the only mistake I would say, because there's really, time fixes any kind of mistake price-wise that you do. But we're pretty conservative too. If we don't buy a house below market, we're gonna put enough down that it's a 70-30 loan-to-value ratio.
At least.
Yeah, if we buy it at 20% down, then we're gonna make sure 10% more is in it. So we're pretty conservative on our strategies. So I honestly can't say any mistake other than being afraid to do it and not doing it sooner.
Okay, so go ahead, Jimmy.
I mean, it's really been a neat journey. The number one reason people fail in real estate investing, well, it's actually two, but the number one reason is they don't put enough money into the property themselves. The people that we were buying foreclosures from and stuff in the 2007 to 2012, we really mastered that foreclosure process and bought a lot of homes between 2007 and 12. But, most of the homes we were buying were people that had put zero down or put very little down at all on the property. And whenever the property values went down 20 or 30%, those were the first ones to walk, the ones that didn't have anything, any financial interest in their properties and stuff. And so, but even with investors back in the late 80s in Texas and stuff, the people that are investing in condominiums and apartment complexes and stuff, it really went broke. Those people went broke because they were over leveraged in the property.
Yeah, another mistake that we saw people make, in both crashes was, you know, especially people that went and bought in Florida and California, people that came to our area to buy, they didn't buy the house because it was a good deal when they looked at it. They bought it based on what they thought appreciation would do. And for us, appreciation is just icing on the top. We don't factor in what we think that house is gonna appreciate because we don't have control of that. So the biggest mistake I've seen other people make is they bet on the appreciation and then something happens and that appreciation doesn't come and it was not a good deal in the first place. So
So they'll buy a house, they'll think that it'll appreciate, and they'll take a negative cash flow on it for a certain amount of years and expect the appreciation value to fix it up, and that's not a very good strategy on investing. And so always be willing to put enough money down and to have enough cash into the project. Like, this process of being at a 70% loan to value ratio, it's been great for Linda and I, all from the 90s. We bought properties every
decade.
Every decade, from the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010s, and we'll continue to be buying in 2020s. In fact, I just closed on one this morning at 9 a.m. in Branson, Missouri. And so, and we're building 12 more log cabins up in Branson, Missouri right now that'll be Airbnb nightly rentals. We've got 19 of those properties up here also.
Okay, so I totally agree. I think easily the top of the list is people buying for appreciation. And that's just icing on the cake. That's a bonus.
Remember, if you buy fourplexes or duplexes or small apartment complexes, the value of those properties are going to be really based on your rents. And so they're not to me, they're not as marketable as a single family home, and they don't go up in value as well as a single family home in a good neighborhood. The value of those type properties are strictly going to be a function of the amount of income that they bring in, and your typical buyer for those type of properties is going to be another investor.
Okay, so do you own duplexes and fourplexes and such?
Sure. Yeah, we
Yeah,
own some
not
fourplexes
many.
still.
Yeah,
Not many. We've done a couple of smaller apartment complexes. We did a 24 unit deal. We've done a 12 unit deal, and then we still own a couple of fourplexes and a couple of duplexes.
Okay, so you just, how far is this Missouri property from where you are?
7 hours from Dallas, drive time.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. That's a little scary to me to be 7 hours away from something I own. How do you manage that? How do you keep an eye on it?
We formed a management company a couple of years ago, so I've got, in fact, the house that we bought for cash this morning and paid for was for our manager to move her and her family up here to Branson to be an on-site manager up here. She lives in Oklahoma. We live in Texas, and she's been really managing it through her staff that's up here. She helped us create the management company and has done a great job. But now we probably got $5 to $7 million invested up here in Branson, Missouri, and we're getting ready to add another $5 to $6 million in investments up here. And so I wanted to have someone up here full time with, eyes on the ground, so to speak, watching over this stuff. And so anyway, she agreed for her and her husband and their kids to move up here, and she's gonna, run it from here now. But getting in the Airbnb and the nightly rental business, if you're just gonna have one or two properties, you want to just find a good property manager that can handle it. We've got 19 properties up here. We got 3 lake houses up here, and then we've got a resort area up here that we've got about 15 log cabins that are in. It's really a unique niche that we kind of fell into here, and we really like the business pretty good. I usually help with the construction and the development part of the deal up here, and Linda She furnishes all the cabins out and picks all the furniture and stuff, and themes each one of them with a different name. It's a beautiful area up here. We kind of fell in love with the area, and if you do this thing right, it really gives a nice rate of return on your money.
Okay, so would you generally say that VRBOs done right have more flow than even rental houses?
They do, but you gotta control your expenses. The biggest issue, like I said, is management. Because management, I mean, of all of our investments that Lynn and I have, this business is more hands-on than an annual rental. There's a lot of moving parts to making these things happen up here. If we didn't kind of have a love for it and, stuff, I'm not sure that we would really be as involved in it and have as much money invested in it as we have.
Okay.
Because this is a labor-intensive business. You gotta really, you got cleaning crews, you got maintenance people, you got, guests that have immediate needs, you gotta have boots on the ground to take care of them. Typically, if you were gonna buy a condominium up in Bell, Colorado, or Aspen, or some kind of a nice ski resort, and you were gonna buy a piece of real estate, you would typically be looking at about a 40% management fee to do those type of properties. Here in Branson, it ranges between, 15 and 20%, and that cuts into your margins pretty big. And so, we've developed our own company and stuff, and as we grow that company, it'll offset some of the expenses and stuff that we're currently spending on it. If we decide right now we don't manage anyone else's property, we just do our own up here with our management team, but we may, over the next few years, start taking over some management of, third-party people's properties also. We're getting some requests now for that.
Gotcha. Question for you, maybe you have some intel on this. Obviously, we're a big city here, and a lot of people are doing VRBO, and technically, in my book, you're a hotel, and so you have a hotel in a residential area that's not zoned that. Do you have any intel of things coming where laws could change where?
Absolutely, yeah. For instance, in Denton, Texas right now.
Excuse me, not VRBO, Airbnbs. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Those are all really kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But, in Texas right now, in Denton, Texas, we own a ranch that's there. It's about a 27-acre ranch, and we've got 2 houses on it. And Linda knocked me out of my ranch by wanting to turn it into a VRBO. Now we can't ever get into our ranch because it's so busy. Both the houses are booked up all the time. And the city of Denton just passed a ordinance that said in order for you to you can have an Airbnb or a VRBO property or nightly rental, but it has to be your primary residence or connected to your primary residence to be able to lease it out. So if our properties would have been within the city of Denton, we would have had to stop. We're 1 block outside of the city and the county. And the county has no regulations there. But if we'd have bought properties within the city of Denton that we were using for nightly rentals, we would have had to register them with the city, and also we would have had to stop because we could only prove our primary residence on one of them.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, there's lots of, doing the nightly rental stuff, you're at the, the realms of the local legislators for your communities and stuff. And there's even been some HOAs that have come in there and tried to limit stuff on nightly rentals and stuff too. And, I can see both sides of it. If you're living in a neighborhood and somebody rented a party house and you have 30 cars show up in your neighborhood and you're going to party all night, that wouldn't be too nice for a neighborhood. So, just kind of, you got to really use some discretion, and you got to really ask people what they're using. I mean, we've been doing now, I guess, our ranch VRBO stuff for about 3 years. And over the 3-year period, we've had 1 guest that we had to come literally had to call the police and kick them out of it one night. And but besides that, we've never had an issue. We didn't do enough due diligence on the front end with the booking, so we probably could have avoided that.
Gotcha. Do you mind if, for a little bit, y'all take questions from people?
Sure.
Okay, Connie, you got one?
Yeah. It's multi-level, so
Talk
I
loud.
might have
Talk
asked.
loud.
Okay. I thought Brad might have asked this better than me, but
Talk loud.
what I wanted to find out. Hi, this is Connie Martin. I've just been a realtor here for about 7 years. How do you guys structure all your investments, all your different? You know, you've got.
We keep about 10 properties in each LLC, so we have an LLC for each
That's what I
one.
want to know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and we put about 10 properties. Originally, we had about 40 properties in one LLC, and I met with this one attorney, he goes, "Oh my gosh, you need to put each one of them in their own separate LLC," and I thought, "Boy, he's nuts." And I met with another attorney, and, you know, he said, you can just sort of try to limit your liability. If something horrific happened, you know, if you have them all in one LLC, theoretically, if they break the bond of that LLC, they can take everything within that LLC.
Right.
But anyway, we limit them to about 10 properties, knock on wood. We've never had an issue there. The other thing, insurance-wise, we have a blanket insurance policy for $5 million that's over and above our normal insurance policy. It's a commercial policy, and we just keep that in place just if something horrific ever did happen.
How much does that run, if I can ask Jimmy, a year?
How much, for ours, because we have so many entities, it's about $7,000.
I got you. Okay.
And you can get, and go we could do that same number of properties and the same number of LLCs. We could do it, we got a $5 million blanket policy. You can do $1 million or $2 million policy for about $3,000.
Gotcha. Who else? Anyone else have a question?
Could you talk about some do's and don'ts for financing strategy? I mean, particularly maybe early in the game.
So early in the game, if you're early in the game, some do's and don'ts, probably more of what to do and don't do.
You know, for me, you know, what is the one common denominator that you have with good deals you find on the marketplace? If you're not able, and you're not in a position to act very fast, what happens?
Somebody else gets it.
Yeah.
That's typically what happens out in the marketplace when we go out there and you're a new investor and you're excited about investing and stuff, but you really haven't gone and done your homework on the front end of getting yourself, you know, turned basically into a cash buyer and stuff. Linda and I, we did a one-page business plan, took it to a local community banker down there. We told him exactly what we wanted to do. Even though our credit wasn't stellar at the time, our reputation in town and people knew us as realtors and doing a big business there, he agreed to do the homes that we were putting 20 or 25% down on each property, and that praised outright. He said, "I'll do all of them that you want." And so immediately we had leverage, and he said, "I can close them as quick as you guys can do them." And so, time is of essence, but knowing that plan and knowing that we had that ability with our local banks and stuff, where if we had to go to a lender and we had to do all the documentation and do all the stuff and then tie the property up, and then something happens on, we may not have the money.
Hey, Jim, however, we did go to the mortgage company on our beginning properties because you want to go get them from a mortgage company up to your limit.
you can do about 10 Fannie Mae mortgages, is what Linda's kind of describing, and that's gonna be a fixed rate. And, with your local banks, they're typically gonna be 5-year ARMs. And so if you're gonna finance one, let's say you're gonna do a 15-year note, they do a 15-year amortization, but your note would reset every 5 years to whatever the current interest rate out in the marketplace. The local banks right now are at 4.75 to 5% right now on 15-year amortizations with a 5-year call. Now, you can go get the money on investor money right now on a 30-year fix right now. You can go get investor money for 4% fixed for 30 years right now. I'm seeing 4.5% fixed on 30-year notes with investor money right now. And typically these smaller banks, so they're gonna want you to put up half a point or a point origination fee on the property. Or if you go with the traditional lender, you can get 0 origination fees. We're not paying any origination, even on investor money. So if you can go do them through a local lender, and you'll find them in your marketplace. There'll be some of them that are a lot better than others at doing investment grade properties and investment properties. So you want to research your lender pretty well on that. And I don't know, Linda, we've never done anything to Keller Mortgage on the rental, on the investment property stuff. I wonder if they do that.
I haven't heard that so far. I think they're trying to just make sure they get down one system and get it good so that they get good, testimonials, and then they're adding other programs as they get their systems down. They don't want to add too much and get bad service.
And
I don't think that's available yet.
I don't think they're
Running
competitive.
time was of essence. We had a local bank we could go to, and then we had a mortgage lender that really was good at investment properties that we went to also. But once you accumulate a whole lot of properties, you get 10 or so, and you're doing strictly the Fannie Mae way, you can't do it anymore that way, so you have to go to a local bank.
Yeah, so if you went to the bank, the number you had would count against you for the Fannie Mae's. That's why you might want to check out that avenue first and then max out at 10 and then go to your bank.
Gotcha. Renita?
So an investor introduced like a program called Fund and Grow where you could get business credit cards and liquidate it as cash. Are y'all familiar with that? Or how do you feel about liquidating business credit cards and making yourself as a cash buyer to get property?
I've never heard of that. Have you, Jim?
No, we've never done anything like that.
Okay,
We
so,
could help you, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but we're pretty conservative, so we're gonna be very conservative the way we do it. Having watched everybody lose all their real estate and be over leveraged, we're very simple and very cautious on how we do it.
okay, so we're about at time. Last question. Anything in your leases that, I guess from experience or over time, you got burned once, but things that would help people that this is now in my lease to avoid or protect this situation?
You bet. One of the things that you guys need to do, if have got rental property, if you're managing them yourself, or you have a property manager that's managing them for you, we have said in our lease that we do 2 inspections a year. So we tell them we do an inspection on the property within 90 days of them signing the lease. And we do an inspection within 90 days of the lease expiring. That one thing, and I have never found a property management company that was willing to go do that. So we had to really set it up with ourselves. We have, with our properties right now, we have a back-end accounting group that's on our corporate team that does all the back-end financials and P&Ls and balance sheets and everything on all of our rental property. And then we have a lady that manages our rental property that handles all the tenant relations, the leases, any, if we have to do an eviction, she handles all of that. We've never had contact with our tenants at all, Linda and I. And she manages the front end of it, and she goes and inspects each one of our properties within 90 days of her signing the lease with them, and within 90 days. Since we started doing that, years ago, that has saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars over time.
In what way? In what way, Jim?
From damage to the property and stuff, because really, when you go in there and, people move into the house and stuff, if they know that up front that you're gonna be coming to inspect the property, and it's your requirement to keep it in good repair, they're gonna be a lot more, astute to doing that. The things that we really are checking on when we go in there, especially in the initial part, is smoke detectors, making sure the batteries are good in the smoke detectors. We actually go to, in our area, typically the HVAC is, within the house or in the, pull down for the attic. We actually look at the filter in there to see how bad a shape it's in, or whether they're doing a good job of changing the filters of it. We make a checklist. If we see a dripping faucet at that time, we make a checklist to have that stuff fixed. If we saw holes in the wall or something, at the time we did that, we would write that up, and we would let the tenant know that it needs to be repaired immediately, and we're gonna do a re-inspection for that. Just knowing that we're gonna go in there and do that twice a year for the 12 months they're gonna be there, it's just, whenever we've done it and not done it, the difference is just so visible, it's unreal.
That's a great, great tip. Any others you can think of, top of your head?
Yeah, be careful listening to your relatives. That's hard to pick the brother.
That's a good point. Any other questions before, okay, go ahead.
What do you find is the best source to find homes for flips? Obviously, a lot of times they're just like pocket listings or not even on the market or like an auction.
Linda, talk about the deeds.
Was the question, what's the best way to find them?
Yes. Best way to find flips.
Okay, well, we always, Brad has always ran on our team, he's always ran an ad that says we buy homes for cash, and that never stops running. He gets some calls off of that. You're gonna have some appointments that you go on, that are gonna have what we call one of the 4 Ds, drugs, divorce, distress, or death. And those are the reasons people sell even in an upmarket at a lower price. So any avenues you can search out those, like attorneys or anybody that might have first access to that kind of stuff. And then tell everybody you know, even other realtors. We tell other realtors that if you find a deal, we'll give you, we don't want any of the commission, we just want the deal. And, you know, what my nephew does, he's been doing what we've been doing for a long time. He has this one particular neighborhood that has all these little old ladies that just love him. And they'll pick up the phone and call him because they know, they'll say, hey, Randy, you know, Jane over here, she's about to go in the old folks home and I think she's going to so they'll call him. So he's kind of captured that old, what we call old high school edition, and those little old ladies love him. But tell everybody you know that you're looking to buy.
And break your neck out as big as you can.
Yeah.
Let everybody know what you're doing and stuff, and you know, it just kind of works out that way. But that ad that Brad is sending into, he sends out a postcard into a neighborhood, and when he mails them out, he mails out about 3,000 of them at a time into a zone of the city he's really targeting, and it's basically, you know, it's the guaranteed sale program, it's the Zillow. You know, we've been doing that stuff since the early 90s. We did a guaranteed sale program, and so all the stuff about this iBuyer program and stuff, we've been doing it. We had our own iBuyer program before they ever knew there was iBuyer program. We just call it a guaranteed sale. So when we go out on a listing, we would, you know, if the seller needed to sell it quick and stuff, you know, we made an offer to buy the house. And they had the choice whether they wanted to list it, make more money on the listing side of it, or if they needed to do it now, we had a situation set up with the bank so that we could go be the guaranteed, you know, buyer for the property. We probably bought, out of the 100 houses we have, How many think we did that way, Linda?
That we wound up buying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing is you don't wind up buying a lot of them, because, you know, they wind up selling, especially in a good market or whatever, but we bought a few of them probably.
Yeah, we probably got 6 or 7 that we bought over time, you know, that were guaranteed sales and stuff. And then, you know, with Brad sending out this postcard in there, it's, you know, it's people calling him, and he'll list about 40 or 50% of them, and then we'll make an offer to buy the other 40 or 50% of them, and then some of them, you know, just don't work out, or somebody else buys them and willing to pay more money for it. So it's another listing tool too for your business to go market that, being a cash buyer out there for the properties.
Okay, just to clarify, unfortunately, the Brad you're talking about is not me, because I would like to be in your inheritance, but your son is Brad, correct?
No, it's my brother.
Brother.
He took over for Linda on our sales team
There we go.
back in 1997.
There we go.
He's been with us since, and we have a separate company called FamVest Realtors FamVest, that we buy some properties with him also.
Okay. One more question, then we'll call it quits. Rashonda.
You just mentioned a scenario that I've had. How do you handle when you're at a listing appointment and they want to sell it to an investor and you actually want to purchase the property? I've had that scenario happen twice where I was like, I really want this for myself. How do you handle purchasing it for yourself versus just being the listing agent? Because I've struggled.
Well, you just give them the option. You say, well, to be honest with you, I'm an investor buyer myself, and I'd like to buy the property. But the thing you want to do is always put in your contract somewhere that you explain to them if they did certain repairs that they could, you know, they could put it on the market and possibly net more money, because that's usually the case.
Okay.
That way you're kind of covered, that they don't remember the story differently. And we give them the option. And by the way, if they want to do the other and get more money, we're happy to help them that way. They don't mind you being the buyer as much as we worry about them mind us being the buyer. Because they already kind of know you and trust you, but we just say, well, be honest with you, we are investors ourselves, and we would possibly be interested in buying this property. And you've explained to them, you know, if you do these repairs, though, here's what you can get. You can get a lot more money. But you'd be surprised at people that will trade time for money. They don't want to take the time and do all those things. They'd rather just have whatever that money is and go on.
Okay. Yeah, one more.
One more.
All right, speak loud.
Quick, I'll be real quick. So I'm struggling right now with, as a agent, you just talked about the time and value of money and all that. I'm being approached by a bunch of people that want me to find investment homes for them, right? So I'm trying to figure out, well, I'm trying to find them. I'm also trying to service my regular clients that I make a lot more commission at and spend a lot less time. How do you, should I just walk away from all those and hand those to other agents? Or what kind of suggestion do you have when we all have 24 hours at the end of the day?
Well, you got to build your cash flow first.
Right.
But I would, if you're determined you're going to be an investor and you have a plan and you're going to be committed to this and actually have the money and are able to do it, I would buy the deal. Because here's the thing about investor people, that, you know, they're difficult with their criteria, and all those things. So I would go after the traditional buyer for my business, and then I would be the investor. And if you happen to have more than you can do, maybe go approach some of those people and partner with them.
Okay.
Or, you know, help use some of their money so that y'all can get more property. But I would, we never really handled a lot of investors ourselves too much. We were the investors, and so we
Okay.
went after building a really good cash flow business.
Yeah.
And remember, we all only got 24 hours, so we
Yes.
didn't get 48 hours and y'all got 24. So you've
Right.
got to learn leverage as fast as you can. Leverage through people, leverage through systems, and leverage through tools. And the faster you learn leverage, the faster you're going to be able to build momentum and speed up this process.
Yeah, thank you. You just confirmed what I had planned on.
Okay, so Jimmy and Linda, thanks a ton. Let's give them a big hand, please.
We enjoyed spending time with you today.
Hey, one last thing, Linda. I think you have my email, but if not, I'll text it to you. But send me some information on your programs, how these people can get into your wake and all the stuff that you're teaching and offering involving passive income and wealth building.
And tell them about your podcast.
Yeah, the best and easiest way is we have a podcast. Our podcast with another girl called Everything Life and Real Estate. And by the way, one of our episodes there has these great guys that do VRBOs in Lexington, Kentucky. And you get a lot of information for them because they give you their formula of how to figure a property. But it's Everything Life and Real Estate. And it's a podcast. It's on iTunes. Download it. We have a lot of great episodes on there. That's the best way. And then you can kind of hear about anything we got going on those podcasts.
Okay, so you'll send me how they can get on those?
Yep, I'll send it to you as soon as we hang up.
All right, thanks a ton. This has been really awesome, and we'll see you in Dallas.
All right.
All righty.
Appreciate it. All
Thank
right,
you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, do this. Some of you, I have a distribution list. So Investment Club meets every month, okay? It's usually on a Friday at this time. And again, I think this is waking you up to the possibilities. We're all should be playing the game of finding a way to have streams of income, passive income, that equal or exceed our standard of living, and that gives us incredible options in our life down the road, and hopefully younger than older, okay? So, Felicia's gonna be at the back door. I have a lot of you already in there, but if you're, just everyone, write everyone's name down, and I'll put you on the distribution list so you'll know when this happens. And then obviously what she sends on these podcasts, I'll send to you also. But, just like I said, I mean, you can tell these people, they didn't go to Harvard MBA. I mean, they're just normal, smart, just street smart people that are just doing logical stuff. And I think almost everything they said was very good thought and logical. And of all the things I would take, again, I think the biggest mistakes people make are that leverage, that, where they were saying, we want 30% in there and there's a reason why. And it's again, they've been through 2 downturns, so they know the gig. But you're still in the game if that happens, if you do it that way versus I've leveraged 100%. So a lot of good ideas here. But yeah, please join us. Every month we're doing this. Again, our game plan, nothing would excite me more than see more and more people that really are on the path to cash flow and being able to live this life. Again, I mean, he's exactly right. They own 100 properties. I mean, truly all you need is 3 pretty decent properties that are paid off. And most everyone, a lot of people would go, I'm done. This is it. I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 flow. That 90% of the planet's done. So, I don't think it's awesome to go this way, but that's all we're really looking for, right? Okay.
Did you record this at all?
We did.
Yes, we did.
We did. So we'll send that out to you also. Okay. Okay, so everyone, go out this door so Felicia just write everyone in.
Yeah, well, and I've got sheets passing around too, so
Okay.
we're good. I got this.
Okay, you got it. Really, question control, sir?
I was traveling. I was going down on weekends. I was managing. I had a real terrible. I was creating conditions over there. You can manage all that yourself. So it's a lot of give me a car.
You guys want to be on the dispute?
That's why I never.
We'll talk later.
All right, take care.
Hang on, email would be good. You'll have a feeling.
I'm aware of that. It's 10, 20, 30 years.
But you can do
What do you do?
They really like.
So you'll basically have to. Yeah, you can forward your.
I was everything.
Either one of you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But now, I'm just the person who looks at it, which is easy, because they're, I have a post office.
Thank you.
That's what I'm.
You guys want to this is for
I know people are scared. Just one. Like I had to pay the.
No, this is it. Yeah, but I mean, that's too. Let's make sure.
But it was interesting, I think I probably could have.
I was like, how can I get out
Right, so
of
you know, right, that's right.
I want the spirit still in here when I come back.
Nobody's coming in. I would say management. That's why when somebody gives you a quad work, so you just say.
So I know that's you.
Have it paid for. That's a great. It really does. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I
know Liz.
They're just normal. Yeah, they never quit learning. It's really safe. It's really fun. It's not bad. The 70-30, rule, it's very safe. Right.
So you need to do like all your because